I tried to grow wide too fast. I would be so much richer than I am now. The marketing wasn't good enough. The sales rates weren't good enough. The cohesion between departments wasn't good enough. Fucking painful year. We stopped everything after that. We did nothing. Dead tired. I mean, it took like 2 years to recover from that failure. I've built a $30 million portfolio of painting companies, and we are just getting started. In this video, I'm going to share my story, my journey, how I got to where I am, and a lot of the hard-earned lessons along the way so that you can learn from some of my failures without going through a lot of the pain that I went through because we fell on our face over and over and over again. If you don't know me, my name is Eric Barstow. I run Painting Business Pro, where I coach hundreds of painting contractors to scale their companies, and run National Painting Group, where we have created a portfolio of painting companies, and we're growing quickly. So over the last few years, we've grown National Painting Group from 9 million a year to 12 million to 16 million to now 30 million. And we're just warming up. But it didn't start that way. It actually started with really humble beginnings. And then we started to really take off after a lot of really brutal failure. So only in recent years, we've seen this huge growth after a lot of years that we went under the radar. My whole career started when I was 18 years old. I worked at College Works Painting my freshman year in college. This was basically my first job. I was a freshman at CSU. I was studying engineering at the time, and I heard about this internship where you could run your own painting business over the spring and summer. You could make $10,000 and be your own boss. I said, hey, that sounds pretty good to me. Sign me up. Somehow I got the job. I was totally underqualified, but I got the job. And I started the program. And in this program, they did this all across the country. At the time, the company was doing $25 million a year. They were in 22 states or so. And all of that revenue every year was generated from college students who never had a business before, didn't have any background in painting, and they would literally be trained on the fly to knock doors, sell jobs, hire the painters, manage the projects, and earn a profit based on how well they managed their projects. And so that's what I did. So my first year with the company, I was not very good at anything, but I did work hard because I thought that's what I needed to do. I was really intimidated by all the other people there. I didn't think like very highly of myself at the time. I mean, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to work my ass off. And that's what I did. I outworked most people in the whole company, but I kind of sucked. I was not good at sales. I was disorganized. I was losing people's checks. I messed up so many jobs, painting houses the wrong color, bad paint jobs that I took weeks to fix. I mean, it was a really tough year, but really also an amazing year at the same time. There's so much I learned, not just about marketing, sales, and hiring people, managing people, and logistics, but also just about myself. And, one story is, that really I remember a lot was when I went over 36 in the middle of the year. So pretty early into my journey there, I was knocking on doors every week. I was out doing estimates, and for 6 weeks straight, I was probably putting in 20 hours a week, knocking on doors, doing estimates. And I just would go out every week into 6 estimates and get no. All the other people on the team were selling jobs, and I was working harder and doing more estimates than almost anybody, but I just wasn't selling anything. And I saw so many other people quit during that time because they couldn't take the rejection or they just wouldn't stick with it. And fortunately, I stuck with it. On my 37th estimate, this guy, Jimmy Horn, whose house smelled like bacon, signed with me. And I don't know why he did, because his last time he got his house painted was $900. I gave him a bid for $3,600, and I just didn't even think I had a chance of getting the job. And he signed, and he said, I think you get what you pay for, Eric, and you seem like a good kid. And that broke my streak. And, I went on that year, I did $60,000 in business. I had a few painters through the summer, and I learned a ton. And I had an opportunity to get promoted to be a district manager the next year because I finished as one of the top 10 interns in the state, and they needed district managers. And as much as my buddies at the time in college I was living with all wanted me to go work at the restaurant with them and party and I'll do that, I didn't think I would have another opportunity to learn how to build a team for a long time. So I felt like I had to take that opportunity, which I did. So the next year I was a district manager. As a district manager, we would do all the recruiting of the students who are going to be interns, and then you would train and mentor them. So I was a district manager and then a general manager for another 2 years. And in that role, in the fall, we would recruit. So I would go into classrooms on campus, and we would either pass clipboards around so people could sign up if they're interested in the program, or we would do what we called a class talk. And I would walk into these lecture halls with 250 students and walk up to the professor and just say, hey, professor, you got a second? Cool. My name's Eric. I'm with National Painting Group. I'm with National Services Group. My company now is National Painting Group. I'm with National Services Group. We operate an internship. Just wanted to make a quick announcement about it to the class. It'll just take 2 minutes. Is that cool? And we kind of would catch them off guard to some degree. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. And so then I say, cool, I'm just going to pass these cards around real quick before the announcement. And I would just go dish out the 5 minutes before class, just dish out 200 class talk cards where they could sign up with their name, phone number, email, major, things like that. Then I get to the front of the room and say, hey, can I get your attention, please? And then I do a quick 5-minute spiel, and people would sign up. I'd say, hey, fill out those cards, pass them to the center, and we would collect names. And I remember my best class talk I ever did was in the biggest lecture hall on campus. It was A100 in Clark, and there's 250 students in class, and 230 people filled out that card. Then we go home and we would just rip through calls and set up group interviews for the next day. And my record night was I set up 63 interviews in 4 hours, just cranking through the phones on a Monday night for a Tuesday. And then I went out Tuesday and I had groups of 5 people at a time, and 12 of those was 6 hours of meeting with 60 students. And in those we'd do recruiting. So it was a lot of, how do you sell the internship and the opportunity without it feeling like a sale? So there were so many valuable skills that I learned in public speaking and phone calls and recruiting and talking to people and understanding people's motivations. So over those years, I ended up doing about 3,000 interviews, and I was one of the best recruiters in the country every year. I get up on stage at the national conference and people would pick my brain and stuff. So I was really pretty good at recruiting, mostly because I just really believed in what I was doing. I worked really hard. I had a good attitude. I was excited about it. But we made huge mistakes. On average in a year, I would hire 40, 45 interns, and about half of them would quit before the program started in January. And then we would launch 12 people at a time. So we'd have this big first training, and it'd be 2 days on a Saturday, Sunday in late January. And everybody would come in. There'd be like maybe 80, 100 interns there. 12 of them were mine. And we trained them for 2 days on how they're going to do marketing and sales in the business. The next weekend, we would prep everybody to go out and knock on doors. So we would encourage them to get their friends or hire other people or get their buddy or their girlfriend or whatever to go knock doors with them to get leads. And we would go train them on how to get leads during the week. And then they'd make a big plan for the first weekend to go out and knock on doors and get as many leads as they could that first weekend. And my record weekend was 511 leads. So we had 11 interns that year. And between the 11 interns, we generated 511 leads in 2 days. And Sean was the winner that weekend, him and his 2 buddies. That was a huge snow weekend. There was like a foot of snow. He was in Colorado Springs trudging through the snow, and he got 97 leads with him and his 2 buddies. So this would be like our huge surge. And then the next week, whoever had the most leads, we would train them on sales that weekend. So I could only train 5 people a week on sales. I could train 1 person all day Friday when I was done with class. So I could do like a 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock estimate on a Friday with someone. And then I could do 5 estimates on Saturday, 5 estimates on Sunday, 8, 10, 12, 2, 4. And I would take 2 people with me Saturday, 2 people with me Sunday. And so I trained 5 people a week. So on Monday, after we got all the leads, I would just sit there and like dial, and they would just listen to me dial and set up estimates. And I go set up 15 or 20 estimates in a night, fill up my weekend. I would cherry pick some of the best estimates, make sure that I'm selling full exteriors for them with good customers, both people there, set up these estimates. Then we go out and I would sell, I do 12 or 13 estimates in a weekend. And then we do that for 3 or 4 weeks. And then we'd have another training at the end of February with 12 more. And then we'd have one more training called third training in March. And I remember one year I had 21 active interns at the time. And so I would do 30-minute one-on-one meetings with them on Monday, Tuesday. So that was 21 times 30 minutes. It was 10 hours of one-on-one meetings on Monday and Tuesday. We'd have a team meeting Monday night for 3 hours. And then on Thursdays, we would do what we call drop-in calls. So I'd have 15-minute meeting with every one of my interns. So do the math, 20, 15-minute meetings ends up being 5 hours of meetings. So I'd start those usually at about 6 o'clock, and they would end at about 11 o'clock. And then Friday, I'd be doing estimates. And then Saturday, I remember one Saturday, I woke up at 5 a.m. I had to pick up Haley. And then we drove down 2.5 hours down to Colorado Springs. And I trained Haley and Sean that day. And then I started my drop-in calls right at the end. So I did 5 estimates, an 8, 10, 12, 2, 4. At the time, I had 21 active interns. So I was fielding calls in between all the estimates with questions about estimates, how to close jobs, all that. And then right when I finished at like 5:45, I remember swinging by, grab Carl's Jr., and then throw on my headphones, and my drop-in call started at 6 o'clock. And I got home and I finished my last call with Bryony, who was operating up in Vail, at 11:30 at night. Hit the pillow, woke up the next day and went out and did an 8, 10, 12, 2, and 4 o'clock estimate. And then after that, from 6 to 8, we have to make sure everybody gets their stats entered so that I can prep for my meetings on Monday, where I had a 1-hour prep meeting with my mentor for all the meetings. And then I would do all the meetings and I would repeat that. And so I was doing this crazy schedule on top of school And I did that for a few years. So, I mean, obviously, like put in the reps. The most valuable thing from this was just the repetition. Like, if you want to get really good at something, do a lot of it. And I started at being terrible at training sales. I started disorganized. I didn't know how to run a team meeting. I didn't have confidence. I wasn't a great coach. I didn't have good time management. But doing that over and over, like I developed like amazing skills at these things. I got really good at training sales. I got really good at motivating people. I got great at recruiting. I got great at running team meetings. So I did that for 3 years. And then the next year I was the co-VP, which just meant I mentored 2 district managers and I ran a team, which was another great experience. And then the last year I was with the company, I was the VP of sales. So this was a new role they had created where the company wanted to launch a new business model. And the new business model was going to be similar to the GPs, the general partners of the whole organization. They wanted to launch this new model that they thought they could scale bigger and faster, which was a model where we would just be doing a sales and marketing internship, and then the VP of sales would run a subcontractor model to get all the jobs produced. And so I worked directly with one of the general partners of the company, and and then there's a woman in Seattle and a woman I think she was in San Diego. So the 3 of us were pioneering this model. And so we recruited all the interns, and then we ran a marketing and sales model. So I had, a group of 12 interns. On Saturday, we'd drive down an hour and a half to our territory. We would knock doors, get all the leads. And then Sunday, everybody would drive down separate and do their estimates. And then I played point, so I would recruit the subcontractors and produce all the jobs all summer. And that year with the company, was my last year with the company. So it was my 6th year working there. I loved the company. I loved what we were doing. I loved the people, but I wasn't making that much money. I was working my tail off. And that last year, I just didn't learn as much that year. I didn't enjoy it as much that year. I was also graduating from college. So I ended up with a degree in economics and business. And it was just time that it had run its course. And I left the company just because I no longer saw a big future there. I wasn't getting paid enough money, and I didn't feel like I was learning at the rate I was learning the previous years. So that was my last year with the company. And, I left the company and I started later that year, I started a painting business. And I started a painting business not because I wanted to be in the painting business. I didn't want to be in the painting business. For the last 5 years, 5 years, I was recruiting college students to do this painting internship. And one of the hardest things about recruiting college students to do a painting internship is it doesn't sound cool. And part of our pitch would be, look, man, I know it's a painting business, but we're not teaching you to run a painting business so that you can run a painting business in the future. That's totally lame. We're teaching you how to run a painting business so you can learn marketing, sales, managing people, logistics, whatever, all the things that you would learn running a business so that you can then apply those skills to whatever career you go into, whatever business you go into. And so there was like this culture of like, if you start a painting business after this, you're totally lame. That's the stupidest thing you can ever do. You're lame. You're not cool. You get shunned. And so it was not something I wanted to do, but I also didn't want to get a real job. And I knew that I knew exactly how to get leads really simply. I knew how to sell jobs really easily, and I knew how to produce those jobs really easily. And so that's what I did. I started a painting business because I knew I could make, at the time, this was 2010, I knew I could make $60,000, $70,000 a year hardly working so I could pursue other entrepreneurial endeavors. I could travel. I could do other things I wanted to do because I had been working my ass off for all those years. So that was kind of the end of that College Works era, the start of Foothills Painting. And I've shared plenty about how I started Foothills Painting in the early days. And I started in August 2010, did just a few jobs that fall just to make ends meet. And then in January, Ben came to me, and Ben I knew from College Works, and he said, "Hey man, can I come and work for you?" And I said, "Sure, man, you can get the leads. You can get your own leads, hire your own door-to-door team, get your own leads, sell the jobs, and I'll pay you a fat commission to do that." And he did that. So he sold most of the jobs the first year and generated all the leads, sold the jobs. We'd meet on Monday, and then I would get those jobs produced with a couple subcontractors that I knew that were great. The next year, Paul, who I also knew from College Works and trained there, he was actually working at another painting company. And then he came over and said, "Hey, let's go to Olive Garden." We went to Olive Garden, and he decided he wanted to come on board too and take over managing all the production. And so that was 2012, where I had Ben and Paul. We did about $400,000, made just shy of $100,000 in profit that year. Ben made great money. Paul made great money. It was basically part-time for all of us. And I was pursuing a number of other things. So from late 2010 until the end of 2012, that's what that company looked like. It was a 5 to 10 hour a week commitment for me. We did 150,000, then 400,000, then 650,000. During that time, I participated heavily in a leadership development program with Landmark Worldwide. It was a 7-month long leadership development program. And then I led introductory personal development seminars for about a year and a half, which was just life changing. I mean, the training and development I got at that organization was truly life changing. And I was spending about 20 hours a week there on a volunteer basis. I wasn't getting paid to do it. I was doing it to learn. And that paid huge dividends. I mean, the things I was learning leading those seminars and being trained to lead those seminars, I was applying in my own business. Also, from 2010 to 2012, I started 6 other companies, I think. So I started a clothing and apparel company, which was a mess. I mean, the second we ordered all the apparel, and then I realized, like, wait, for us to grow an apparel company, we just basically got to go to vend events at booths and like sell t-shirts one off. I was like, we literally did one event and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to actually pursue this business. We shut it down. I did a consulting company where I was consulting local services, but I didn't really enjoy that. Had a few clients, but I didn't like it and shut that down. I did a network marketing company called World Ventures for a little bit, which was growing really fast. My team was growing fast, but I quickly realized, like, man, in this business to be successful, like everybody needs to becomes a lead, and it turned all of my relationships into like leads kind of, and I just didn't like it. So I didn't want to pursue that. I also realized that some of the top people in that company that were making like $300,000 a year or a month or whatever it was, it never was really passive income because I saw some of them dropping levels, and the whole dream that was sold was passive income. So I didn't like that. I invested money in what I thought was going to be a great opportunity. Turned out to be literally be a Ponzi scheme. The day after I tested it out for a couple months. I can't remember the name of this thing, but I tested out for a couple months and I was making money on it. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to put in 10 grand, which for me at the time was a lot of money. And literally the next day, the company was seized by the SEC and my 10 grand was gone. It took about 3 years for them to get me that money back because they did work through all of that and return a lot of people's money. So I lost money in Ponzi scheme. And then, gosh, there's one other thing I did. But anyway, beside the point, here's what I realized was over those 2.5 years, my painting company went from 150, 390, 650,000. I was traveling about 75 days a year. I mean, my girlfriend, Josephine, who's now my wife, we were going all over the place. We went to New Zealand for a month. We ended up going to a ski trip around the world where we skied 26 ski resorts in like 45 days. I don't even think it was 45 days. I think we did it in 33 days. Hit 26 ski resorts, including all over the US and all over Europe. I went to Dominican Republic a bunch of times, Mexico a bunch of times, Utah, ski trips. I mean, we traveled like crazy. So during those 2 years, I was doing the leadership development stuff. I was starting all these companies and I was traveling, and all of my income was coming from my painting business. Virtually all of my income and almost none of my time. And I remember getting to the end of 2013 and looking back and saying, man, I worked like 5 hours a week on this business and made 110K. I remember golfing 13 out of 14 days in August that year. And I just thought, man, if I would have just worked a little harder in that business, I would make a lot more money. I'd be more fulfilled. I was too bored, honestly. And I had an epiphany. I remember driving down my street on Custer Drive, pulling up the red light when it just hit me like, what am I doing? Why am I avoiding the painting business? I've been trying to pursue all these other companies. Oh, it was like I did like a tech thing. I was just trying everything, like looking for some home run, looking for some overnight success. Around that time, like 2011, 12, 13, Shark Tank was really popular. Companies in Silicon Valley were like popping off, like Airbnb and Uber and all these. The Profit was on TV. Like there was so much hype around entrepreneurship and this illusion of like some home run success that I realized doesn't exist. And I was chasing all these home run opportunities thinking that it existed. And the epiphany was, man, what am I doing? Why am I not just going all in on the painting business? I've been doing this for 10 years. It's making me all my income. There's a huge opportunity in this business. It's $100 billion a year industry or something crazy like that. There's no clear market leaders. There's very little competition. Nobody wants to be in this industry, including me. I knew so many people who knew this business who were trying to get out of the business over and over and over. And so I decided then and there, I'm going all in on the painting business. And that's when I started Painting Business Pro. And something else kind of funny happened at the time. Ben, who's now my business partner, at the time, I had been trying to get out of the painting business for the last 3 years. Like, I only got into it to make ends meet, and I was trying to plan my exit. So I was grooming Ben and priming Ben to take over running the company. And at the very same time that I decided I'm going to go all in on the painting business is the very same time that I couldn't deny Ben the ownership I had been grooming him for in the company. He earned it. Like, he was running the show. He was performing great. Who he had become was, I'd be like, dude, I'm full of it if I don't give this guy this opportunity now. And so at the very same time I decided to go all in was the same time that I said, Ben, you've earned it. Here's half the company. I literally gave him 50% ownership in the company, not 5149, 50% ownership of the company. And I said, the deal is you run the company now. And that's what he did. So it was a $650,000 business that year when he took over. The next year, he grew it to 1.1 million. I ended up making about the same money that next year as I did the previous year, but I was completely not involved. And so that was the beginning of the next big era, which was the start of National Painting Group. And so now I was in this predicament where I didn't have much to do. Ben was running Foothills Painting. I was doing Painting Business Pro, but I didn't think it was going to be anything. I mean, I thought I started Painting Business Pro because I wanted to learn how to do things on the internet. And the only thing I was any good at was starting painting companies and teaching people how to start painting companies. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to teach people how to start painting companies on the internet to learn how to do stuff online, to learn email and copywriting and websites, and just to learn that world. Because I had read the 4-Hour Work Week. I was inspired by that. I'm like, I got to learn. So I started Painting Business Pro. I thought maybe someday it might be a couple $1,000 a month business, but I would learn that then I could apply to the real opportunities. So it was late 2013. Ben's running the company, or maybe it was 2014. It was 2014. Ben's running the company. I'm doing Painting Business Pro, but very on the side. There's a whole other story about how that failed and then magically came back to life. Say that maybe for another day. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I thought, maybe this thing with Ben is working pretty well. Like, I'm making great money still, but he's running it now. Like, why don't I get more Bens? And considered opening a franchise, considered franchising and doing a franchise. And so I put a little link on the Painting Business Pro website that said, want to work with me, apply here. And people started applying. And I started having those conversations with people. And we were having conversations around a franchise, just feeling it out. Like, there's nothing official in place. We didn't do our diligence or anything. I just want to start talking to people. And I just hated the conversations. There was something that didn't feel right to Ben and I about opening a franchise. It felt like the conversations were very transactional, and like, I love people and I love business and I love the opportunity of entrepreneurship. And the problems I saw with a franchise is, number one, it's really transactional. It's like, we're going to do this for you. You do this, you pay us this. And then like, there's clear lines. And we just didn't feel like we were in it with people. The second big problem was, fundamentally with a franchise, like, you're kind of selling the dream of entrepreneurship, like the real dream of business ownership and entrepreneurship, which is this huge upside and the ability to create freedom. But the reality for most franchises was they ended up being an owner operator, because you buy this like tiny little sliver of a territory with maybe 7 zip codes, and you just can't get the business that big in that territory. It really limits your opportunity to grow and scale the company. And I also had started, will tie into my overcommitment, but I also had started another company called Painter Choice with my partner, Chandler. He actually started the business, and then I came in as a partner in the business, and that was a lead generation company. It's similar to like Angie or, Next, what was the other one? Networks, Craftjack, similar to that, but we were like much, much smaller. And we started that business too. So I was running, kind of Foothills Painting, Painting Business Pro, and Painter Choice. And so I knew a lot of franchises through that. I mean, we sold millions and millions and millions of dollars of leads and spent millions of dollars on Google Ads. And we had hundreds and hundreds of contractors in our network, and I knew the numbers. And so I didn't love the franchise model because I didn't think it really gave people that huge upside of entrepreneurship that I was passionate about. So anyways, when we really took a hard look at at ourselves and our hearts, we said, you know what we really want to do is we want to be partners with people. Like, we just want to be in it with people. So we stopped talking about a franchise and we started talking about partnerships with people. And we ended up talking with this guy, Mike, and we just felt like we really hit it off. And so we're like, man, we want to do this with you. You want to do it? Cool. Let's do it. And he was up in Michigan, and we decided to do this partnership. And it was like an experiment. This was like August 2014. We're going into the slow season in Michigan with this guy who's run a Foot Locker before and didn't have a background in painting. And so we launched the company. Ben flew up to Michigan and he hired door-to-door marketers. He got the first leads. They did the first estimate. He sold the first job. He hired the first sub crew and produced the first job in 7 days, and then flew home and was like, all right, Mike, you're trained. And over the next 6 weeks or so, business picked up enough that Mike was able to quit his full-time job. And then we landed a couple big deals that were able to kind of get him through the slow season. He ended up making more money than he did at his job. He spent more time with his family. It was just we considered it a success. Successful enough that we're like, all right, let's do more of these. And so in 2015, we launched 4 more companies and 4 more partnerships. One of them was with Alyssa, who had done Salesforce at Foothills Painting. She's still a partner with us to this day. And then 3 were people who came through Painting Business Pro. And one of those failed right away. One of them failed about a year later. And one of them was a successful business. But then we ended up having, he ended up executing a forced buy sell on us right as the company was scaling. And we kind of took it on that one. So those didn't end up turning out, but we thought they did. By the end of that year, we had started 5 companies and 3 were successful. We had, Mike was good, Alyssa was good, and then, Stetson was good. These 3 companies were doing really well. And we said, hey, 3 out of 5, not bad. Let's go bigger. And so we said, at the time, Foothills was doing like $2 million a year. And so Ben and I, very naive, very stupid, very arrogant, at the end of 2015, we're like, all right, now let's go do this. Let's scale this. Let's build 100 of these. So we started 9 more locations in 2016. So this was an absolutely bonkers year. And remember, I'm still running Painting Business Pro. Ben's running Foothills. I'm involved in Painter Choice as well. We have 4 painting companies right now. It's Foothills, Imperial, that's Alyssa's company, Great Plains, which was Stetson's company, and what was the other one? Oh, and then Mike. So we had these 4 companies. We're bringing on 9 more. Had a million things going on. So our spring was crazy that year. So this was 2016. Ben was the one who would fly out and launch the company. And he was running Foothills. So his schedule from January through April looked like this. This week, he is on the road. He flies out somewhere, hires door-to-door team, gets first leads, does first estimate, hires first sub crew, starts first production job, flies back. And then he runs Foothills for a week, and then he flies out and does the next one. Foothills for a week, flies out, does the next one. He does that for 16 weeks because there were 8 partners, 8 weeks on, 8 weeks off, week on, week off, week on, week off. It was bonkers. And he'll maybe share about that on one of the podcasts. So while he's doing that, I also have, whatever that is, 15 direct reports at the time. So I've got my Painting Business Pro going on. I've got meeting with my partner Chandler at Painting Choice. I've got one-on-one meetings with 12 partners plus 12 partners. So I have 13 one-on-one meetings or something between Monday and Tuesday. We were trying to grow the business. We didn't have this infrastructure for it. We didn't have the systems for it. We were also selling a shitty opportunity at the time. We're like, hey, if we can build 100 $1 million companies, we're going to have a $100 million company. And what ended up happening is we closed 8 of those 9 companies by July. I mean, crash and burn failure. We only lost about $70,000 in startup costs and expenses and travel expenses. And the one company that survived actually started in August that year. And it was Hunter, who started at door-to-door at Foothills, sales at Foothills, graduated and launched a company with us. So he was the only survivor of 2016. We got to the end of that year very humbled. We were exhausted. We lost 70 grand and we felt really shitty about ourselves. Mostly because we essentially neglected the partners we already had to bring on more partners. And so not only did we lose 70 grand, but all the time we put into trying to launch more companies, we're like, man, if we would have just put that time and energy and effort into the companies we already ran, we would be in such a better shape. Like we would have made so much more money. We'd feel better about ourselves. We'd be able to sleep at night. It was a fucking painful year. We stopped everything after that. I mean, 2017, we did nothing. We were like, dead tired. I mean, it took like 2 years to recover from that failure. We said, we're not doing any new startups for a while. We're just gonna work on the companies we have. So now we've got 5 companies, and I've got Painter Choice still, and I've got Painting Business Pro still. I'm still grossly overcommitted. And, then in 2017, a great employee we had to move back to Oklahoma to take care of his mom. And we're like, well, why don't you start a company there? So we started another one. That one didn't turn out. There's another story there. That company ended up getting sold to our top subcontractor, Emmanuel, who then joined Painting Business Pro. And he's actually a partner of ours now. So it kind of came full circle. But anyways, 2017 and 18, we did nothing. We recovered. We just ran the companies we had. And we decided at the end of 2019, we got the whole company together. It was 24 employees or something at the time, and said, hey, what do we want to create? And I'm pausing because there's so many other things I could share along the journey here. There was a lot of other training and development I was doing along the way. I went to a 6-day leadership program in Cancun that was life changing. And I went in 2018. It was so deep and dense though. I went back in 2019, came back from it. And that's when we created a new future for the company. And the way we did that was we spent 2 days really just trying to figure out what really matters to everyone here? Fundamentally, what is the most important things in life and in your career to the sales reps, the production managers, the office managers, the subcontractors and painters, our customers, ourselves, owners, partners. And we created a new future for the company. And the new future was, hey, we still want to open more companies and locations. Why? Because we want to provide future opportunities to our team. Here's a lesson I want to share. So when I left CollegeWorks Painting in 2010, I remember in 2016 or so, 15, I remember personally knowing people that used to work at CollegeWorks with me that were now doing $100 million a year in painting. $100 million a year from people who used to work at CollegeWorks. CollegeWorks was a $25 million company when I was there. And the thing I got there is why did everyone leave? I left, but I didn't leave because I wanted to leave. I love the people. I love the culture. I didn't want to leave, but I was a motivated and ambitious guy. And so were all these other guys who were running big companies. And motivated, ambitious people need to have future growth opportunities. And if you can't give them those opportunities, they're going to go get them somewhere else. And so I wanted to make sure that in the organization I was building, the superstars and the leaders had future opportunities to grow. And the only way you can provide that to your people, to give your best people opportunities, money, learning, training and development, all the things those super motivated, high-performing people want, you have to have a big company that's growing. Because if a company's not big, there's not that many big opportunities. And if it's not growing, there's not any new opportunities. And so we figured, hey, we need to have some model here that allows huge future growth. And the vision for us was still more locations and more painting companies. And then eventually maybe we get into other trades or other businesses to continue creating those opportunities for our star players. But instead of, hey, let's start $100 million companies, we said, we're not going to open more companies. We're going to build a $10 million model and then we'll scale. Because I'd rather go and say, hey, do you want to partner with us? We're going to help you build a $10 million company rather than a $1 million company. Because a $1 million company is not that big, not that attractive. You're not going to get that many great people because and I can make 100,000 a year, 150,000 a year. But if we can offer a business model and a path to building a $10 million company, that's someone who can make 7 figures a year in income. We can actually attract great people and we can work with way fewer people and produce way bigger things and love what we do and really master what we're doing. And so that was 2019. And we said, all right, 2020 is the year that we're going to create the foundation to be able to do that. And we made a big action plan, huge strategic plan, all these initiatives. And we got to the end of 2020 and we said, okay, we're not even close to there yet. Run it back in 2021. Got to end of 2020. We're not even there yet. Run it back in 2022. Run it. And we've just continued to do that. Where we finally got to the point in, really it was probably 2023 where we were ready to bring on a couple new people. There's so much to this whole story. I hope you're finding this valuable or interesting. We did a couple more startups and the startups failed. And then I was hosting the first ever event with Painting Business Pro. Painting Business Pro, we had like 12 people at it or something like that. It wasn't a lot of people. And at the event, I was just sharing about some of the things we were doing at National Painting Group. Jess Arujo, shout out Jess. She pulled me aside at breakfast on the last day, and she's like, dude, you got to tell me about this National Painting Group thing. Like, how do I be a partner? What's it look like? And she started picking my brain about it. That was, we ended up having some conversations, and we just were like so values aligned. She's like amazing human being. Everything we're trying to do, she's trying to do. It was like, it would be like denying the universe for us to not create a partnership with her. So we ended up making an acquisition into her company. So we bought into her company, and then a couple months later, maybe 6 months later, Emmanuel, who I shared about, who had taken over the company we initially started in Tulsa, who then he became a Painting Business Pro member, a conversation naturally, organically happened with him. And it just made sense for us to create a partnership with him. So this was in 2023 that we launched those partnerships. We also started a couple other startups. And what we realized in recent years was we're not going to do any more startups. Startups are tough. And what I've realized about business owners is you don't know who's going to make it. And I've talked to a lot of people about this now, is you could have the people that you just like absolutely bet. I see this all the way back to college works. There's like the people you would absolutely bet on to be successful, and they quit. They don't have the grit. They don't I don't know what it is. I mean, if I knew what it was, I would tell you, but the hardest part of the business is the beginning. And it's kind of like you're going to make it happen or you're not. We don't know how to pick that. We don't know how to pick them. And other things too is like so much of the early days of a business it just requires just the sheer grit and will of the business owner, where we aren't that valuable in those early days to some degree, because you just got to make it work or not. And so what we've shifted our business to is acquisitions. We want to, because that's really where we're valuable now. So, Foothills Painting now does over $7 million a year. Elkhorn Painting does over $6 million a year. Other companies doing over $3 million a year, and all of them are scaling really healthy, really rapidly, with leadership teams in place, taking over day-to-day operations entirely. We're really, really valuable the later in the game it gets, because as a company grows, you've got to have the grit at the beginning, but Painting Business Pro can provide a lot of that stuff to people. A lot of the know-how and here's how you market, here's how you sell, here's how you manage projects. But then there's like almost no companies get over 300,000-400,000 a year. I mean, 95% are under that. Just go ask Sherwin-Williams. They've got all the data, and almost nobody's doing over 300,000 a year. It's a lot of owner operators still doing a lot of painting themselves. And then there's a group of business owners that crack through that start to hire other people to do the painting, and they might hustle their way to like 500 or 600 a year, but it's not healthy and it's not very strong foundation. And they kind of get stuck there working 50, 60 hours a week, making pretty good money, but like can't get traction and can't grow. And then we get, there's another break up to like $1 million, 1.5 a year, where you can hire a couple people, but you're not super strong with hiring and team building. So you have a bigger business, but it's often not that much more profitable, and it's just as stressful because you haven't figured out how to hire and build teams effectively. And then you get to someone who's, this is like really what Painting Business Pro exists to do, is get you to a point where you've got like a 4 or 5 person team with good people, healthy margins, healthy business, doing $2 or $3 million a year, where you can work 15 hours a week and you can, travel, you can take time off, so that's creating real freedom. And that's kind of the Painting Business Pro journey. And then it starts to get harder, and there's these challenges that happen when you scale a business past 3 million that I think people really underestimate. I know we did. But one of them is just system development. So you have to get your systems really dialed in. And one of the illusions I had is I thought, once I get my business to 4 or 5 million a year, I'm like done. Like I've made it, I'm done. And it's like, that's not the case, because the bigger the business gets, the more systems you need to build and the more systems you need to maintain and improve. Because if you're not improving, other people are, who are smaller and more nimble than you, and they will pass you. Like you have to build more systems and you have to optimize those systems. So that's one huge cost. I mean, it is a daunting task when you think about how many systems need to be built and maintained and optimized, and more importantly, integrated. Because if I gave you the best business model in the world, the perfect painting business model, the biggest issue is that people don't follow systems, which presents the second big challenge that people have really scaling, which is you need to create a culture of people who operate at an impeccable level of integrity, who follow systems, follow protocols, implement those things. And then you need to start to develop leadership, because to go from, 2.5, 3 million to 5 million, you need twice as many people, but your marketing gets harder too. So system development gets harder, marketing gets harder. And that's also why you need to optimize your systems, because you need more efficiency in the whole business to keep it profitable. Otherwise, it gets less and less profitable. And you needed to cultivate leadership, because it just doesn't make sense to have 8, 9, or 10 direct reports. You can do it, but it becomes a full-time job again, and now you don't have freedom. But that's the whole reason you started the business in the first place. And so that's largely like the problems we have solved at our companies with building like a model to get to 10 million. Now, given, Foothills and Elkhorn, they're not at 10 million a year now, but we know that we could be at 10 million if that was the focus. But we haven't focused on growth. We're starting to focus on growth, but we've been focusing on the health of the business, the training and development program, the SOPs, the systems, the metrics, the profitability, the sales rates, the production rates, the rate of referrals and reviews. Like, we've been working on a healthy business first, and that's where all our growth has come from. Whereas, 5, 7 years ago, we were trying to grow by sheer will. We would just work really hard, drive more marketing, drive more sales. And so the problems we've really solved is we've gotten really good at marketing. We have really good systems. We have a ton of system development process in place to keep building and making those systems better. And we have an extraordinary training and development program for creating leaders, which is difficult. And it's taken us years to do. I went back in 2010 to 2012 is when I was going through my own leadership development training. And I started taking that training and bringing it to my company back then. So there are things that I've been working on cultivating leadership for a long, long time. Some other holes in the story here, in 2021, we hired Jeff and Richard, who came in as consultants and helped us create a future for the company. I'll share about that another day, but that's been absolutely wild and life-changing, and has really been the catalyst to a lot of our growth, is creating the kind of future at a company that is truly co-created with the team and created from the heart, being connected to where every person who's creating that future is connected to their calling and their purpose. Now let's create a future that fulfills that. And now let's do the work of aligning the organization to fulfill that future and fulfill your individual calling by fulfilling this future. And that's how we start to have this alignment and synergy within a company that has created incredible momentum. So I could talk about that for hours, because that has really been a huge implementation for us since 2021. And it's the guiding light for our whole company today. And I did the same thing at Painting Business Pro. Another one of the holes in the story here was somewhere along those lines, I had to get myself decommitted. I mean, I was telling, someone I work with today, I have basically been overcommitted for the last decade. I shared with you in 2016, I had Painter Choice, Painting Business Pro, and 14 direct reports or whatever it was, running all these companies. Even in 2023, I had 7 business owners reporting directly to me. I'd just gotten out of Painter Choice, I think. And I was running Painting Business Pro, had 3 direct reports there. And then I also had 5 direct reports at National Painting Group through the marketing department. So I had 13 direct reports. There were breakdowns and failures happening everywhere, and there just wasn't enough of me to put them all out. And so for the last couple of years, I've just been working on not adding anything new, but trying to remove things so that I can finally get to a place where I'm not overcommitted. We ran our company for years in a place where there was so many things that weren't good enough. The marketing wasn't good enough. The sales rates weren't good enough. The cohesion between departments wasn't good enough. The customer experience wasn't good enough. The financials weren't good enough. Our data wasn't good enough. Our financial accountability and tracking wasn't good enough. The success of our partners wasn't good enough. The success of Painting Business Pro wasn't good enough. The success of our members at Painting Business Pro wasn't good enough. The sales process at Painting Business Pro wasn't good enough. The content wasn't good enough. The email marketing wasn't good enough. I mean, nothing was good. Nothing. And we were lying to ourselves for a long time saying it was really good. But the thing that has really made the biggest difference in our whole organization, both the performance of the organization, but also my experience of my work, has been we have stopped trying to grow. And instead, we have just been making everything good. First good, and then exceptional. How do we get our sales rates really high, our estimating perfectly dialed in, the cohesion between departments amazing, the customer experience, the rate of referral, the rate of review, how well the team loves their job, loves their career. How good can we make the Painting Business Pro program itself and the results of our members and the onboarding experience and the sales process and our content? How can we just make everything we're doing better? And to do that takes so much time and effort. So the first thing I had to do was start to ask for more help from people. So, Hunter and Ben stepped up and they took over direct reports with all of our partners. Hunter started taking over some webinars at Painting Business Pro. And for him to do that, he needed people to step up. And so that's where this focus we've had as a company for really the last 3.5 years on developing leaders is so important. Because if you have a strong culture at a company, but then you grow it without strong leadership, the culture will diminish as the company grows. The only way you can maintain a strong culture and high standards is if you have leaders that will maintain those when you're not there. And it's been a huge daunting task, but we've gotten really, really good at it. So now we're at this place now with the growth of our company where we're ready to scale and ready to grow. So we decided that last June. So it was June, June 2024. We said, hey guys, we're not the bottleneck anymore. Our systems are dialed. Our training and development program is dialed. Our companies are dialed. The model is dialed. Like everything's dialed. We don't need to keep making our business model better anymore. We're going to keep doing that, but it's not the most important next thing for us to do. Like we're ready to grow. Like that's the next thing to do. So in 2024, we made 7 acquisitions. So one of my best friends, Spencer, came on as a partner with us. He was in a partnership, ended his partnership, and then partnered with us. And his company's just ripping. They were stuck around $3 million a year, and this year we're predicting like somewhere between 4 and 5 million, but way more profitable, much healthier company. Then we ended up making 6 more acquisitions, all from Painting Business Pro members. And that's really our model moving forward is we want to work with people. We work with people at Painting Business Pro. We love what we do there. The program is amazing. The results are amazing. The people we work with are amazing. Our team is amazing. We're really proud of what we've created there in the program, the support, the events, everything we do there. And from there, like there's just certain people that it just makes sense. And so that's kind of our process is there's, we're going to just build Painting Business Pro and help as many painting contractors as we can, create freedom, discover what's possible, and build a company people love. And then there's just certain people that it makes sense for us to be partners. We're values aligned. We love everyone we brought on. It's like, we just love these people. We've worked with them for some of them like 4 or 5 years. They've been to our events. They've been on coaching calls. Like they've gone through values training stuff with us. Like they're running a great company and they just want to be a part of what we're doing. And so, we made a couple announcements throughout the year at our in-person events that said, hey, if you're just interested in partnering with us, just come chat with us. And there was, 15 or 20 people that we chatted with. And, the 6 people that we thought would be a perfect fit, they also ended up thinking it would be a perfect fit. And so, we value the company. We agree on a valuation. We make a buy into the company. And now we're minority partners helping those people scale their companies. And that's what we're going to continue to do. So, Hunter's taken over as the CEO at National Painting Group. He's got a leadership team that runs Elkhorn now. Ben is stepping into like his zone of genius and the things he does really, really well, which is he's kind of all over the place doing a lot of really important things for us. He's got a leadership team that's running Foothills Painting now. And I'm over here running Painting Business Pro scaling. And I build our entire training and development program across the company, the leadership development programs, training and development programs, and maintain the culture and the vision. And I just support all of our leaders across the organization now. So where we're heading in the next, few years is if the right people come along, we're going to make partnerships with people. If the right people don't come along, we aren't. We're perfectly content with the companies we have today. Like we love the companies we have. We love the people we work with. We love our partners. We love the work we're doing. We're making great money. We have a great lifestyle. We just want to do work we love with people we love to do it with. And that's our plan moving forward. Now, if I was to predict what's going to happen is there's going to be amazing people that join Painting Business Pro and are standouts and love our values and love our vision and love what we're doing and want our support in growing and scaling their companies. I think that will happen. But if it doesn't, we're perfectly okay with that. So that's where we're at today. So it's the beginning of 2025. We've got 12 painting companies now, Painting Business Pro, and we're also starting to cultivate a solar company with another good friend of mine. So we're doing residential solar sales right now and getting ready to scale that. We're about 10 months into that, and that's picking up a lot of traction as well. And so that's the journey. So if I were to underline some of the big principles, is one, like, you got to master the basics first. You master the basics through repetition. Like, I cut my teeth in college. I think there's a lot more resources these days, a lot more coaches, conferences, videos, books, resources to master things, but you've got to put in the reps to get good at something and leverage all the resources. Second thing, I have invested so much of my time and money in training and development. In 2010 to 2012, it was that leadership development program. I was putting in 20 hours a week there, not being paid, just on my development. Before that, I had done 4 different personal development seminars. Before that, I had 6 years with a direct mentor in College Works Painting. From 2012 to 2018, I participated in, I went to entrepreneur retreats, entrepreneur events, conferences, read books. I went to a number more of personal training development programs and courses. I went to a 6-day leadership development program in Cancun twice. I've hired mentors. I've been working with my current mentor, Jeff, and Richard, who has since passed away, but I worked with them since 2019. Jeff is now an advisor in my whole organization and has equity in the company. I love Jeff to death. He's changed my life in huge ways. Just this last year, we've invested over $300,000 in events, coaches, training and development programs, masterminds, communities. I have invested tons of my energy, time, money, resources for me and my team. I mean, 1 year we spent $80,000 for 10 of our team members to be in a program. So we invest really heavily in resources. So we put in the reps, we invest heavily in resources and training. And then the mistakes I made. So let's end with a couple of mistakes here. One was I tried to grow wide too fast. If back in 2014, when Ben took over, if instead of saying, I don't need to do Foothills anymore, let's go add more companies. If instead I said, okay, let's just help Ben, let's just work together and build this thing to 5 or 6 million. And then let's add other things. If I'd have done that, I would be so much richer than I am now. I would be so much further along than I am now. So for those of you guys in my membership, you hear me preach this all the time, is avoid the shiny objects. You got to just master your business. Anytime people come up and say, hey, should I add this other location? Should I add this other partnership? My answer is almost always no. You can get more out of your first one, and you're building something that is better. It's harder work to go deeper, but that's the more valuable work to do. And that's the work that almost nobody does. Depth beats breadth. Go deep and master things and solve the hard problems, because that's the shit that nobody else is doing. And that's where you get a real advantage. So we tried to scale wide too early. I tried to run too many different businesses at the same time. The second my partner was like, hey, what if you just walk away from Painter Choice? And I walked away from that business. And I left a lot of money on the table to walk away, but I was overcommitted. I was trying to go in too many directions. And I remember in 2016 or 17, some mentor and coach said, dude, you're trying to do too many things. And I was too arrogant to hear it at the time. And I said, oh yeah, well, watch me, I can do it. And that was costly. That was a really costly mistake. The most valuable thing I could have done is build one business really, really well, and then do the next one really, really well, and then the next one. And there's this illusion that if you don't move really fast, you're falling behind. But everyone is caught up in that illusion. So the opportunity becomes going slow and doing things right. I could just go on and on with the lessons and the stories and the journey, but I hope that you've gotten something out of this. I think I'll leave it there. Definitely drop any comments below this video. Shoot me a message. Let me know what you took out of this. Let me know what you want to hear more about. I'm happy to share a lot more details on anything. It's been a wild ride for the last 20 years. But right now, exciting things are happening. So I'm excited to share the updates and the progress so we can share what we're going to do. I expect that this year we're going to scale over 40 million. We truly are just getting started. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about the way that we've been doing things since 2019 is we've been building things in the right way. And now we're starting to reap the benefits and rewards. And so I hope that there's some valuable lessons you can learn for this yourself. And yeah, I'd love to hear what you took out of the video. Love to hear any comments or anything else you want me talk more about. So I'm sure I've missed some things, but I hope you liked it, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. I hope you found it valuable. We make these episodes in the show for you, truly. So your feedback is super valuable to us, whether it's, things you liked, things you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. Any feedback you can give us is going to be super helpful as we continue to evolve and improve the show over time. And if you want a copy of the Fast Growth Roadmap for Painting Contractors, which really simplifies the steps you take to building a business, we've got that resource for free for you. Just check the description or the bio where you're watching or listening to this episode, and you can just click and download that for free, and it should help give you a good roadmap for how to build and scale your business like the people that you're listening to on the show. So thanks for listening in. We'll see you soon.